Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Evolving Women. I'm Teresa Lysam, and my esteemed guest co-host today is Lin Schussler-Williams. Thank you so much, my friend. I'm so honored to have you here today.
I'm so glad to be here, Teresa. This is fun.
This is fun, and you have a fun energy, so I'm looking forward to our conversation. But I do have to admit, I try to always get to your monthly networking group who has the most amazing women who gather there. And
Yes.
I don't like when I miss it. So I don't know how you attract such fabulous women, but I want everybody to know who's listening that I've had several women from Lynn's
Yes.
networking group on my podcast. So I'll try to link some of those episodes here. But
Yeah.
they are wonderful. So I am again honored that you yourself, the leader, are here. So thank you. But I'd love to know a little bit more about you and how you got to that point where you're gathering these women. And I know you have a lot going on to offer the world, but I'm sure you weren't always kind of
Yeah.
considering where you're at right now. Can you kind of share a little bit of your journey and if you were
Yeah.
already confident and self-assured in your goals?
Oh, my word,
That's a
no.
lot, huh?
I
Sorry.
was not always confident and self-assured at all. As a matter of fact, um, all the work that I do in the world today, whether it's my main business or my side projects, one of which is the Wise Women Collective, which you were
Yep.
just referring to, all of those came about because you don't get to be my age without quite a story, Teresa. So,
Right,
but
right.
as a child, I had several things happen to me that were unusual and um what's the word I'm looking for, Teresa? Like they created things that got in my way. And I always wanted to understand how people got through stuff like that and how we make meaning in the world.
Mm,
From the time I was a little bitty kid, I was fascinated by how people decide what things mean. And I don't know where that came from. I think I came in with that curiosity, right?
mm,
But then things happened. When I was 8 years old, my father owned a trucking company, and it was the late 60s. And Jimmy Hoffa was in charge of the Teamsters Union. You've probably heard his story,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And so organized crime, right, was in charge of the union that my dad had to deal with, and he butted heads with them. And as a result, specifically, my life and his life were threatened by the mob.
mm,
And my parents were wonderful people, and they did a great job of, I think they thought they completely buffered me from that. But somehow I knew something was
mm,
going on. And it left me with a fear, I will say, of success. I had this embedded subconscious belief that I came out of that 8 to 12-year-old really formative time believing that it's just not safe to be too
mhm,
successful.
mhm.
It's
Wow.
really better to fly under the radar and just not get noticed, right?
Mhm,
And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't understand that as I was going through it. But but I did have this fascination with how people make meaning in the world. So when I went to college, I majored in religion because I was at a school that didn't teach cultural anthropology. I wanted to study ancient cultures and how we developed, how we made
mm,
meaning. But I was at a small liberal arts school, and so I studied religion because all the ancient cultures were built around their religions, right? So
mhm,
we just find our way. All of us just find our way through. And when I was about 38, my mother had just died. I had just given birth to my second child. and my father came to visit to meet his new grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a storyteller, and he was sitting in my living room telling this story, Teresa, about armed Pinkerton guards in the woods around our house. And I was
Oh,
like, excuse me? Like, what exactly in the hell are you talking about?
wow.
Right? I just had
Wow.
no frame of reference for it. So the whole story comes out, and all I could think was this explains a lot,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And
mm-hmm,
you can trace this thought of better to fly under the radar than be noticed by those who might want to hurt you, right? You
mm-hmm,
can trace that through my life, through school, through relationships with people, men, food, like all of it, right? You can, and so there were just so many experiences in my life, in my young adulthood, that were shaped by that thought. And at 38, I got really serious about, how do I get rid of this? How does
mm,
this leave me? How do I become the me without that thought that
mm,
just doesn't belong to me? That is not who I am. And I just had this undeniable path to that. And so everything I do has been the confidence to do it, the wherewithal to do it. Back to your original question, came from this desire to get rid of whatever was in my way. It was just like, hell no, you're not going to get, it was
mm-hmm.
just no. So
Wow.
that's where the confidence came from, is
Wow.
just
Ooh.
having to get rid of it all.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
how about those of us who don't see an underlying common thread? Like you were
Yeah.
referencing, you kind of saw this thread run through so many aspects of your life, but a lot of us don't see those connections.
You know what? It is so much easier to see for other people than for ourselves. Can
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
say, absolutely, that is true. And I had help along the way, right? I was on a mission. So if anybody said to me, I can help you rewire your brain or get out of your own way, or,
Mm-hmm.
reduce your limiting beliefs or whatever, I read the book, took the course, got the certification, all of that. So there were a lot of people who helped. I did not do this by myself, but
Mm-hmm.
I landed in a place of finding a way to do this myself and teach other people to do it themselves. That's my life's work. It's called Lucid Sequence, but it is so much easier even today for me. It is so much easier for me to recognize those patterns in others than initially for
Mm,
myself. Now I know how to go get them and find them for myself, but it is the common theme for everybody I've ever met, that we know what we're experiencing, but to see the pattern, to see the thread, is much harder when we're looking at ourselves than
oh
we're
my
when
gosh.
we're looking at others. Yeah.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
good to have other people from outside of our head kind of
Yeah.
help us, reflect back to us what they're
Yes.
picking up that we're not seeing because we're so close to it.
Absolutely. It's right here. It's much
Yeah.
harder to
Yeah.
focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you said that so many people helped you because I
Yeah.
experienced something similar, not what you went through, but in terms of I took the trainings, took the courses, took the blah,
Yes.
do the, like for years, read all the
Yes.
books. And so I think so many of us forget that we are a sum total of everybody who's helped us get here.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because, life is not a DIY project, I heard somebody say once. And I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, it's funny. It isn't, but it is too, I think. I mean, it isn't in what you're saying, like we have help, but it's also, we can't accept the help unless we decide
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
gonna be the leader of our own DIY project, right?
Love
If
that.
you can't decide you're in it to win it for yourself, then you won't even accept the help when it shows up. You
Hmm.
remember that old story about how the there was a flood and the guy climbed up on the roof of his house and somebody came along with a, a motorboat and he said, no, no, God will save me. And then
Yeah.
somebody came along with something else and he's like, no, no. And then somebody came along with a canoe and he's like, no, no. And then he drowned. And he got to heaven and he said to God, why'd you let me drown? And God said, well, I sent a canoe and a motorboat and like, what the heck, dude? Just come on. Like, it's also that, right? We also
Yeah.
have to be in it for ourselves too.
I
The
love
help
that.
along the way is the grace, right?
Hmm.
It's the thing we're grateful for and in many times we can't do without, but we also have to be willing to grab it.
Oh, I love that. Leader of our own DIY project. That is
Yeah.
well said. Thank you so much. But I think as women, sometimes it is hard to receive and be open
Oh, yes.
to getting that help from others, especially in our society and our culture. Well, I think it's changing and it's softening, but it's like you have to do it yourself. Be the woman who brings home the bacon, births the baby out in the field, like that whole type
Right.
of a mentality.
Right. Yes. And okay, buckle in here, Teresa, because you've opened up my favorite
Oh.
can of worms here. Okay, so here's the thing. One of the ways we get those things embedded in our subconscious that get in our way that I'm so excited about helping people learn to remove is programming. And that programming
Mm-hmm.
comes from people, parents,
Yeah.
teachers, siblings, friends, bosses, spouses, all the people who say stuff to us. And
Mm-hmm.
and some of it, we take it in and it
Yes.
sticks and becomes this filter. But the other place we get programming is social norms and
Mm-hmm.
society, social programming. What
Yeah.
does it mean to be a smart, a successful woman in
Yeah.
America today, in the world today? What does it mean to be, a woman? How should you look? How should you dress? There are social programs around all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And how should you show up in the world? And, people my age, I won't claim you as my age. I'll let you be whatever claim, but I think that women have, for the last several thousand years at least, borne the burden of more social programming than anyone
Oh,
else
heck yeah.
about all of
Totally
that.
agree. Totally agree with that.
And we also um, have been operating in a society governed by programs that benefit everybody else that aren't women more. And so those women in my generation who were the first ones who didn't have to ask the question, is it okay for women to go to work?
Mm.
I remember as a teenager sitting around the dinner table and hearing people talking about, is it really okay for women to just
Wow.
assume they can have a career?
Wow.
Well, my generation was the generation that said, hell yes, it is. Get out of
Mm-hmm.
the way. But we were operating inside a soup of social programs that said at work, this patriarchal set of programs is how you must function in order to succeed. So
Yes.
we received all this stuff about success has to mean this and it has to be done this way and blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, right? And so I don't even remember what got us started on this, what your question was, but
That's okay. But
it's
I love
just
that,
so
that you're
important.
like saying all the shoulds. Should.
Yes,
You should do this. You
those
should
are the
act like this. You
programs.
should say that.
Yes.
And I love that you pointed out social programming.
Yeah,
We talk about, we were all programmed from childhood on, through so
absolutely.
many different layers and receiving. So we took a lot of things on, not knowing that we didn't have to. We could have said, no, thank you.
Right,
And just,
exactly.
step bet was our own authentic person. But we didn't know that that was an option.
That's right. And so and then life experience comes in, and life experience reinforces social programs because
Mm-hmm.
there were
Mm-hmm.
women who did say no, and it didn't go well always for them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So seeing that life experience over and over and over reinforces that you have to do it this way, that it has to be like this, that this is what success means, that this is the only way to get it, right? And then came like the 80s and the 90s when it was like women can have it all. You can be a
Mm-hmm.
career
Yeah.
success and
Yeah.
you can be a mom and you can be a this and it has to look like this and you have to do it all perfectly and right and all the pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
That created for women. And you know, people ask me, men mostly ask me all the time, why the Wise Women Collective events don't include men.
Mm.
And I always say, well, men have had a place to go and do business without women for thousands of years.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
we don't need that exclusivity. This is not about balancing a scale. This is about for a long time, the only place business got done was where the men were and the women were excluded. So today, in a world where you can do anything, it's okay for women to have a few places where they can get together with each other, support each other in their businesses, in the way they want to be in the world and not have the influence and the change that it brings when a man walks in the room.
I
It is
love that.
just okay. And you guys can just get over it.
I love that.
So that's what I say to them.
That is so true. And now that you bring it up, I see like things you see on the movies with the den and the men in there smoking their cigars and the
Yeah,
women weren't allowed in there,
right,
and
right.
so you're right, they've had it for a very, very long time. And
Yeah.
now it's okay for us to carve out our own special time and place with our
It doesn't mean
women
I don't do
supporters.
business with men. I
Hmm.
do. I have men who are clients all the time. Some of my very best clients are men. It means it's okay for women to have a room that's just for them
Mm. So everybody
as well.
listening, it's okay. Just know that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And this whole, I wrote down defining our own definition of success. Sometimes
Mm.
we claim somebody else's definition of
Yeah.
success, and it might not even align with us. And so I think
Yeah.
it's important that we define it for ourselves.
Yeah. As solopreneurs, especially solopreneurs who do business online, there are so many people out there saying, I made $8 million in 2 years, and let me show you what
Yeah,
I did,
yeah.
and you can do it too. And so many people telling us what our businesses need to look like, what success needs to look like. And that comparison energy, right? That
Mhm.
competition energy, it 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 um it stops us from finding the places where collaboration and where connection could really feed us. And just today, I was watching a workshop by somebody who was less like that than many. I will give them that. And it was a man and a woman working together. And they said, we're not here to be the bro marketers and we're not here to tell you this. And they still told us how much money they made. And I thought, bless their hearts, it's okay. They're just trying to find some way to tell us they're successful enough for us to listen to them. But in the end, the way they did it was not something I would ever do, no matter how successful they were. It wasn't for me. But unless I'm confident enough to know what is important to me in my business, I'm not going to ever, I'm going to go to one after another, after another, after another of those, as we all have at some point on this journey,
Oh,
probably,
yeah.
and go, they must know something I don't. And it's
Yes.
right. Well, guess what? They do know something I don't know, but it's not what I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, yeah.
just that clarity, that clarity is what's so important, I think, of what serves us and who we're here to be.
I love that. And I know I want to hear more about collaboration. I know that's really, really important to you.
It
But
is.
what you just said, what's important to me? Getting clear on that. I think it's really clear that we know our values as well. So you
Mhm.
can pick and choose who you listen to and who you follow and what might
Yeah,
work for you. I know they're trying to be inspiring. And like you said, oh, we did this, we created this success. Like you said, you should follow me. But I also think they're trying to inspire us that if they can do it, anybody can do it,
right. But
which
their
is
process might not be what's up. And I'll give you an
exactly,
example. In
exactly.
this one, their whole thing was based on once you had their little system down with, whatever their tech they were selling, you had to go run ads. Well, I'm
Mm,
not an ad runner. I'm not going
hmm
to go out and spend thousands of dollars a month running ads on social media. That's just not how my business works. And it's not how I want to work. And it's not how I want to be in my business. And those aren't the things I want to keep track of. What I want to keep track of is the people and the
mm,
relationships and the understandings of what I can bring to them and they can bring to me. That's what I want to feed my business. And that clarity, that right there made me look at their thing and go, that's not for me. What they're
mm.
doing is great. And I bet for the person that it will work for, it'll be great. They seem great, but it's not for me.
I love that. And you're confident enough to be able to say that and
Sure.
discerning enough. I think discernment is really important nowadays.
Yeah, I do too. And that clarity comes in my world and in my work. That clarity right there comes from not looking at myself, my business, and the world through the filters of old programming and conditioning,
Mm,
right? I have that because I have clarity instead, right? It's like if I'm wearing these glasses, I'm seeing you clearly, right? But if I took these off and put on my sunglasses, especially if they weren't my prescription sunglasses, then you would look different. The color of your shirt would be different. The color of your walls would be different, right? Everything would be, I would be looking at the same screen and the same person, but it would be
hmm
different because I'd be looking through a different filter.
Yes.
And that's the clarity that when we take those off, the lenses, the filters of our old programs and conditioning, and we replace them with clarity, there it is.
I love that. You're right. We're all looking through those filters that we don't realize are there.
That's right.
Those patterns, those limiting beliefs, everything is a
Yeah.
filter that we all individually, depending on our life's experience, come to
Yes.
this moment with.
Yes. And it's
Mhm.
different for everyone, but there are categories of them that I see over and over and over. For instance, I have not met someone yet who didn't have some programming or conditioning or limiting thought around worthiness in some form or
Wow.
fashion. What am I not worthy of? And why am I
hmm
not worthy? Right. And then people also, I haven't met anyone yet, even wildly successful people who don't have programming and conditioning around money.
Wow.
Right. We all like how many people listening have an idea in your head that in order to really make money, you have to work hard. It only comes from
Yep.
hard work. That's a program, right? I mean, yeah,
Yes, yes.
it's a program. So there are categories of things that, you know, people taught us and they became these filters and then they influence the choices we make. And when we remove those filters, decisions become fast and simple and easier.
And I'm going to ask you how you do that here shortly, but I always thought, used to think, and I'm sure many people listening, that successful people don't have these filters. They don't have these limiting beliefs. They're successful. They've gotten to this point in
Yeah.
their life where everything's all beautiful and hunky dory, which is a really
Yeah.
old term. But and you're saying that's not right. That's not true. That's not the way it
Well,
is.
it doesn't have to be, that's for sure. And I'll give you an example. I have a client who owned a very successful large business and sold it for multiple eight figures. Like we're
Mm,
talking
mm,
on anybody's scale, wildly
hmm.
successful,
Wow.
money wise. And when we were talking about money, and the programming and conditioning and filters around money, you know what she said to me? She said, well, I've done really well with money, you know, but how much better could I have done if I weren't
Mm,
operating under
right.
whatever's in here, you
Right.
know?
Wow.
And that was such a powerful aha moment right there to witness, right?
Mm,
Even the things, you know, like food is another one. People have programs around food that are just incredibly common, like you have to clean your plate, or,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
food is comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm married to a man who is the cook in our household and who definitely thinks food fixes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me decades to realize that when I met him, I was really skinny and
Oh.
that I ate along with him, right? And he fixed everything with food. And I watched
Mm,
that in my children because they learned it from him, right?
mm,
It was like, oh, the kid came home from school upset
yeah.
because, whatever. Oh, here, let me fix you your favorite snack, right?
Mm,
And so it's just really interesting the ways we get these. And some of them, the same kid can have that experience, and another one in the same family can
yeah.
have that, and it can have different, right? It isn't like, oh, this happened and so now I'm stuck with it. It's not that. It can be that much cause and effect for this person and not this person because we're
Right.
all
Right.
individuals.
Wow. But yet you're seeing common categories or common threads, common patterns, even though we all think it's unique to us, there
Right.
is some commonalities like the
Yes, the
worthiness
way
and the
it happens
food.
is unique to us. The way what
Hmm.
we make it mean is unique to us,
Right.
but the experiences are so I'm going to hesitate to say universal, but boy, is it close to that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's yeah. And I've heard that from other people. And that's still astonishing to me that
Hmm.
8 billion people and we still have these similarities, but yet
Yes,
we all
yes,
think we're all in it alone. Yeah, it's just very
yes,
comical. But
yes, yes.
what can you offer our listeners a tool or any tools or resources that
Yeah.
can help them, come to terms, break their own patterns, get more
Yeah.
clarity?
Well, the very first step, I think almost any life coach or transformational service provider would tell you that the first step in almost every transformation is awareness, right?
Yep.
And becoming more aware of yourself. That self-awareness is so huge. And so I have a little tool. It's a self-awareness um, just minor little tool, but it opens your eyes. It's called Revealing Hidden Patterns, the Tree of Programs and Conditions. And we
Hmm.
use the analogy of a tree, and the trunk of the tree is where all the categories of programs and conditions live. And then all the branches and the leaves and the twigs and everything are what we make it mean, right? And this little self-assessment tool is kind of fun and kind of one of those awareness aha moment turner honors. So that everybody, it's free and everybody can
Okay.
find it at treeofprograms.com. And it gives you ways to contact me at the end if you want to go deeper or want to learn more. They can hear my story. I have a less than 5 minute video on my website that tells my story in more depth if they'd like to hear that. And it's at lucid, Lucid sequence.com.
And we'll put links to all of that with this recording, with this episode, so everybody can just go click on those and go take advantage of those. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for offering that self-assessment. I
Sure.
think that's, like I said, the important first step is self-awareness, which does take some courage to even have that self-awareness,
Yeah.
to even try to have some self-awareness.
And when I work with people, people ask me all the time, do I have to know before I come and work with you? Do I have to know what my programs are? Do I have to know what my limiting thoughts are? And the answer is no, you don't. Because I have that awareness of these categories and these things, and I can ask you questions that'll lead us to
Mm-hmm.
the tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it isn't something you have to do, but it is that first step, that awareness step, right? That's what
Right.
it's there
And
for.
like you said, we don't have to know because we're so close to it. It's helpful
Yeah,
to have another
exactly.
person in the course of the conversation and the questions to kind of
Yeah,
extract and come to a
yeah,
starting point or a path to follow. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
thank you so much.
yeah, thank you for having me. And I just want to say if anybody's looking, if any of the women listening are looking for us at Wise Women Collective,
Mm.
Um, let me just mention that everything there is free. You can't spend money in Wise Women Collective if you try. Not on Wise Women Collective. You could meet somebody and spend money with them
Yes,
or something,
yes, you can.
but not on the thing itself. And we have lots of connection opportunities for women to meet other women, and that's you and I know lots of women in common there, and that's at wisewomencollectivehq.com.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Lynn has a lot of options, so you can connect in with her and with
Sure.
her beautiful group of
Yeah.
women. So please take advantage of everything that Lynn has shared with you. Like I said, that everything will be in the description. Thank you so much, Lynn,
Thank you,
for
Teresa.
joining us here. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and your insights. And thank you for everything you're doing out there in the world because it's really important. And I really feel you're leading by example for all of us women. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Glad to
everybody.
be here.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Watch for our next episode. Oops, I always have to remember to grab this. Subscribe, share, comment. I'd love to hear what you think about our conversation today. Leave a comment and give us some feedback. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again, Lynn, and we will see everybody the next time. Bye bye.